Hello and welcome to episode 3 of my vlog. Today, I'm going to answer a rather interesting question.
I want to know, Singapore got so many PRCs, everywhere got PRCs, and I'm sure you know how the locals feel about the PRCs. So my question is, England got PRC or not, and how do the Brits feel about the PRCs in England? Thank you.
Now, for my viewers who are not Singaporeans, the term PRCs stands for People's Republic of China. It is a term coined by Singaporeans to distinguish Chinese people who were born in China and hold Chinese nationality from Chinese Singaporeans who are in fact born in Singapore and hold Singaporean nationality. And yes, I'm only too aware of how many Singaporeans resent the influx of PRC migrants over the last 10 years. It is a topic I've talked about a lot in my blog. What is the situation here in the UK then? Well, it is somewhat different. The bulk of the PRCs in the UK are university students. There has been a huge increase in the number of PRC university students over the last 10 years or so, given how many Chinese students view British universities as a desirable place to study. Not only do they get a degree, they get to improve their English and they get to spend a few years in the UK. However, Chinese students do have the bad reputation of struggling with English. Now, I'm sorry if that sounds discriminatory, but it's true. Chinese students learn English as a second language in China and often have a rather thick accent. Furthermore, they struggle to understand British people when we speak English at a normal speed, so it would be necessary to slow right down and talk like that with a Chinese student. There are 124 universities in the UK, and the good ones at the top of the league tables, say the top 20 or the top 25 universities, will happily reject PRC students who do not have the requisite English language skills to do a degree, whereas those lower down the rankings have been accepting PRC students who barely speak English, much to the annoyance of the teaching staff who find themselves struggling to be understood by their PRC students.
The title is
I would say there are two kinds of PRC students here in the UK. Firstly, there are those who are genuinely brilliant and would go to top universities like Oxford and Cambridge. They are very hardworking, extremely driven, and perform extremely well. Secondly, there are those spoilt brats. These are the rich kids whose parents are exceedingly wealthy. As a result of China's one-child policy, these are the notorious little emperors who stand to inherit all of their parents' wealth. So they don't really have that much of a motivation to study hard and find a good job, unlike the student from a poor family whose parents had to make huge sacrifices to send him to university.
我的爸爸是文化机构的总裁，而且现在我在 London Metropolitan 大学念 Economics。好棒，非常喜欢伦敦。
You know, my parents had to use their life savings to send me to university, So I absolutely have to get a first class and then get a good job. Otherwise, it'll all be for nothing, So very bo bian leh. Really have to study very, very hard,
Now, these rich kids really don't care too much about learning anything at universities. And the universities at the bottom of the league tables aren't really that interested in teaching these rich kids anything either. These rich kids would often miss the 9 o'clock morning lectures and would be dining at expensive Chinese restaurants for lunch. They also tend to very much keep to themselves and not make friends with any of the other students. There is in fact a growing underground industry where these rich PRC students pay others to do their coursework for them, and the universities turn a blind eye to the fact that the thesis is obviously not written by the student who can barely speak English.
那么这个下星期五之前得写好哈，它的 title 是 Does devaluation cause inflation? Devaluation 是什么？哎，管它，下星期五之前哈，记得哈。那么给你100磅好不好？现在先给你50，那么你写好了再给你其余的50好不好
？Now in Singapore, PRC migrant workers are doing all kinds of jobs lower down the food chain, like bus drivers, waiters, shop assistants, hawkers, but this is simply not the case in the UK. There are very strict controls when it comes to migrants coming in from outside the European Union, so non-EU unskilled migrants would never ever get a work permit for the UK. So the bad reputation that PRC migrant workers have in Singapore is simply non-existent here in the UK, since such migrant workers would never get into the UK to begin with. We do have, of course, highly skilled PRC professionals working here in the UK as skilled migrants, but those who were legitimately able to obtain work permits under the current fairly strict rules are usually so highly skilled and so respected that there simply isn't the same kind of resentment against them that one has seen in Singapore. So by that token, there is a general recognition of China being the next global economic superpower. So PRCs here actually have a better reputation than in Singapore, because those who are here are either very rich students or highly skilled migrants, whilst in Singapore, the PRCs there are the lowly skilled migrant workers who are there because they are cheap. Chinese people are just a very tiny minority here in the UK at no more than 0.5%. So there are not that many Chinese people in the UK to begin with. In sharp contrast, there are over 1 million China-born PRCs in Singapore. That means over 1 in 5 people in Singapore are from China, compared to less than 1 in 200 in the UK. So most British people do not even meet anyone from China in their everyday lives. So there's not that many opportunities for conflict with PRCs, unlike in Singapore. The one big difference between the UK and Singapore is that of illegal immigrants from China. Now, it is so easy for PRCs to come and work in Singapore that there are very few illegal Chinese immigrants in Singapore. Whereas, in sharp contrast, it is very hard for Chinese nationals to get a work permit in the UK unless they are very highly skilled. So, there are some illegal immigrants from China in the UK. However, these illegal immigrants tend to keep a very low profile to avoid detection, so they simply do not interact with the general British public, and the only PRCs who leave an impression on the local Brits are mostly the rich students. So that's it for today's topic. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm about to fly off to Oman on holidays. Today is what? Today is Friday and I'm flying off on Monday. So 3 more sleeps before I go on holiday to Oman, and I'm going to be on the road for a total of 4 weeks. Goodness me, 4 weeks away from my flat, away from my clothes, my bed, my things. It's going to be mind-blowing. I hope to be able to vlog whilst in Oman and get some stunning footage of the amazing Arabian desert in the height of the July summer. It's going to be like 45 degrees. It's going to be hot. It's going to be amazing. So do leave a comment. Do subscribe for more videos. Also, you can check out my vlog if you like the stuff I talk about. And yeah, see you next when I send you my next vlog post from Oman in the Middle East. Thank you. Cheers.